You've been doing everything right and you can feel it getting worse. Not your income. Your income is fine, probably better than fine. You got the raise, you maxed out the retirement contribution, you automated the savings, you did the things the books told you to do, the podcast, the spreadsheets, all of it. And somehow, standing in a grocery store last Tuesday, staring at a receipt that felt like a rent payment, something shifted. Not anger exactly, something quieter. The feeling that the ground moved and nobody told you, that receipt wasn't a mistake. The prices weren't a glitch. And here's what's going to keep you up tonight. The strategy you spent years building, the one that was supposed to protect you, it wasn't designed for this. It was designed for a world that doesn't exist anymore. And the most dangerous part isn't that your money is losing value. It's that you don't feel poor enough to panic, and you don't feel rich enough to relax. You're in the exact middle where nothing is visibly broken, but nothing is actually working. And that middle, that quiet, corrosive middle, is where most people spend the rest of their lives without ever understanding what happened. Let me tell you about the lie first, because it's elegant. It's so elegant you'll defend it even after I expose it. The lie is this: if you earn more, you'll outrun inflation. If your salary goes up faster than prices go up, you win. That's the game. That's always been the game. Get promoted, switch companies, negotiate harder, earn more. The math should work. And on a spreadsheet it does. You made $75,000 5 years ago, now you make $110,000. Prices went up 22% in that time. You went up 46%. You're ahead. You should feel ahead, but you don't. And you don't because the lie has a second layer, one that nobody puts on the spreadsheet. When your income goes up, your exposure goes up with it, not your spending. Your exposure. The apartment you moved into isn't just more expensive per month. It's more expensive to insure, more expensive to leave. The car you upgraded to doesn't just cost more in payments. It costs more in the specific kind of anxiety that makes you park further from the cart return. The neighborhood you moved to doesn't just have higher rent. It has a higher social floor, a minimum performance standard that you now maintain without thinking about it. And every single one of those new exposures is a surface area where inflation touches you. You didn't just get a raise. You gave inflation more skin to burn. Think about a ship, not a metaphorical ship, a real one. Steel hull, ocean water, long voyage. When the ship is small and sits low, it has a certain amount of hull exposed to the water. The water is corrosive. Salt, pressure, time. It eats the metal slowly. But the ship is small, so the damage is manageable. You scrape it, repaint it, keep moving, now make the ship bigger. Much bigger. Taller, wider, more surface area below the waterline. The ocean didn't change. The water is the same temperature, the same salt content, the same slow corrosive force it always was. But now there's so much more hull in the water, so much more area being eaten. The maintenance cost doesn't just go up proportionally. It goes up exponentially. Because you can't even see all the surfaces anymore. You can't reach them. You don't even know where the corrosion is happening until something starts to leak. That ship is your financial life. The water is inflation. And every raise, every promotion, every lifestyle upgrade you made over the past 5 years didn't lift you out of the water. It made the ship bigger. The waterline didn't change. Your exposure did. And now you're maintaining a vessel so large that the very thing that was supposed to make you safer, size, scale, income, is the thing making you vulnerable. The person earning $60,000 with a tight, small life has a tiny hole in the water. Inflation hits them, yes, but they can see every surface. They know exactly where the corrosion is. They adjust. The person earning $150,000 with the apartment and the car and the subscriptions and the wardrobe and the neighborhood, they have a hull so vast they've stopped tracking it. They just feel the ship getting heavier and they don't know why. Here's a question that's going to feel uncomfortable. When was the last time you calculated not what you earn, but what it costs to be you? Not your bills, not your rent, the total cost of maintaining the identity you've built, the clothes that match the office, the meals that match the social circle, the car that matches the parking garage, the phone, the watch, the coffee order, the grocery store you choose because you'd feel strange shopping at the cheaper one? What does it cost per month to be the version of you that exists right now? Most people have never calculated this because the number is terrifying. Not because it's large, because it's mandatory, because almost none of it feels optional. It all feels like baseline, like minimum, like just how things are. And that right there, that sensation that your current lifestyle is the floor rather than a choice, that's the most expensive feeling in the world. Because floors don't compress. Floors resist. You will do almost anything to avoid dropping below your floor. You will stay in jobs you've outgrown. You will avoid conversations that might threaten your income. You will keep paying for things that stopped mattering years ago because canceling them would mean admitting you need to. And inflation knows this about you. Inflation doesn't need to break you. It just needs to squeeze, slowly, invisibly, 1% at a time, until the gap between what you earn and what it costs to be you gets so thin that you can't feel it anymore. You just feel the pressure. Now here's where something shifts, and it doesn't feel good at first. It feels like loss. There's a difference between what you own and what owns you. And most people cross that line so gradually, they never notice. The apartment doesn't feel like a choice anymore. It feels like a fact. The car doesn't feel like a luxury. It feels like a requirement. The salary doesn't feel like abundance. It feels like the exact amount needed to keep everything from collapsing. This is the moment where earning more stopped being freedom and became obligation, where your income stopped expanding your options and started maintaining your commitments. And here's why this matters more right now than it did 5 years ago. 5 years ago, inflation was a word in a textbook. It was 2%. It was background noise. Your raises outpaced it without effort. The gap between what you earned and what things cost was wide enough that you never thought about it. Now that gap is a crack. And the crack isn't closing because prices went up once. The crack is closing because prices went up and stayed up, and your brain hasn't adjusted. You're still making decisions based on the price memory of 2021. You still feel a small shock every time you see what eggs cost, what insurance costs, what a dinner for two costs. And that shock, that repeated low-grade disbelief, it does something to you. It makes you hesitate, not with big decisions, with small ones. You start thinking twice about the thing you would have bought without thinking a year ago. And that hesitation, that tiny friction, is the first symptom of a much deeper problem. The problem isn't that you can't afford eggs. You can. The problem is that the cumulative weight of everything costing 15 to 30% more has silently consumed whatever margin you had. And margin isn't a financial term. Margin is a psychological term. Margin is the distance between your life and your limits. It's the space that lets you breathe, take risks, say no. When margin disappears, you don't go broke. You go rigid. You stop being a person who chooses and start being a person who manages. And managing feels responsible, but it's actually a form of captivity dressed in spreadsheets. Let's put some numbers on this because the feeling needs a spine. 3 years ago, a household earning $120,000 might have had monthly expenses around $7,000. Rent, car, insurance, food, utilities, subscriptions, the normal American package. That leaves roughly $3,000 a month after taxes for saving, investing, breathing. Today, that same household, same apartment, same car, same lifestyle, no upgrades, is spending closer to $8,500. Nothing changed except the price of everything. Their take-home didn't move much because the raise they got was 4%, and inflation over that period was closer to 18 cumulative. That $3,000 of monthly margin just became $1,500, cut in half. Not because they did anything wrong, not because they got reckless or greedy, because the cost of staying exactly where they are went up and nobody adjusted the strategy. And here's what matters about that lost $1,500. It wasn't money they were spending on luxuries. It was money they were using to feel safe. It was the gap between their life and their limits. It was the thing that let them say no to a bad offer, take a week off without anxiety, absorb a surprise expense without reaching for a credit card. That margin was their freedom. And it evaporated. Not because they earned less, but because the world got more expensive while their playbook stayed the same. The old playbook said earn more, save a percentage, invest the difference, wait. And that playbook worked when the cost of being you was stable, when your floor didn't move, when inflation was a rounding error. But when your floor rises every quarter, saving a fixed percentage of a slowly growing income isn't a strategy. It's a slow motion surrender. Here's something that should reframe every financial decision you make from this point forward. And it's not a tactic, it's a lens. Wealth is not money. Wealth is the number of bad options you can survive without fear. Read that again in your head, because it changes everything that came before it. Every raise you got, did it increase the number of bad options you could survive? Or did it just raise the cost of your daily life so that the same number of bad options still terrifies you? If you earn $150,000, but your life costs $140,000 to maintain, you can survive exactly one bad option. A job loss, a medical bill, a market crash, one. After that, everything collapses. If you earn $80,000 and your life costs $40,000, you can survive bad options for years. Plural. You can get fired and spend 6 months finding something better. You can say no to the promotion that would require relocating to a city you hate. You can walk away from the client who treats you like a servant. You can sit in silence during a negotiation because you don't need the deal. That silence, that patience, that calm refusal to accept bad terms, that's not personality. That's arithmetic. It's the arithmetic of a wide margin. And inflation just spent 3 years silently narrowing that margin for everyone who wasn't paying attention. The shift isn't about earning less. It's about needing less to feel intact. Because the moment your sense of security stops depending on your next paycheck, something changes in how you move through the world. You negotiate differently, not because you learned a tactic, but because you're not afraid. You make decisions slower because you can afford to wait. You stop saying yes to things that cost you time and energy just because they come with a check. You start measuring opportunities not by what they pay, but by what they cost you in optionality. And optionality, the ability to choose between multiple paths without any of them being catastrophic, that's the real currency. It always has been. Money is just the most common way to buy it, but it's not the only way. And it's not even the most efficient way when inflation is eating your money while you hold it. The most efficient way to buy optionality right now, in this economy, in this specific inflationary environment, is to lower your floor. Not your standard of living, your floor. The minimum amount of money required for your life to function without crisis. Because when your floor drops, every dollar above it becomes a choice instead of an obligation. And choices compound the same way money does. Only faster. Let me tell you what this looks like in practice. Because it's not dramatic. It's not selling everything and moving to a cabin. It's invisible. It's keeping the apartment but not upgrading when the lease renews, even though you could. It's driving the car another 3 years past the point where you'd normally trade it in. It's not the big cuts. It's the quiet refusal to let your baseline keep rising. Every time you resist an upgrade, you can afford. You're not saving money. You're buying distance. Distance between your life and your limits. Distance that lets you breathe when the market drops, when the layoffs start, when the client disappears, when the economy does whatever it's about to do next. And that distance is worth more than the raise, more than the promotion, more than the return on any investment. Because investments can't lose value. Distance can't. Once you have it, it only costs you the discipline to keep it. Now here's where almost everyone destroys themselves. And I need you to hear this clearly, because you're probably about to make this exact mistake. The moment you feel the margin widen, the moment that distance between your life and your limits starts to grow, you will feel an almost physical urge to close it, to upgrade, to reward yourself, to let the floor rise just a little because you've earned it. And it will feel rational. You've been disciplined. You've been patient. You've watched other people spend freely while you held back. One upgrade won't hurt. One nicer apartment. One better car. One vacation that costs what a vacation used to cost before you started paying attention. And that one upgrade will feel like nothing. Because in isolation, it is nothing. But it's not in isolation. It's a new floor. And the floor never comes back down. You will defend it. You will work to maintain it. You will make decisions to protect it that you don't even recognize as decisions. And in 18 months, you'll be back exactly where you started, earning more, spending more, margin gone, wondering why you feel trapped again. The raise came. The strategy didn't change. The water found the new hull. This is not about deprivation. This is about recognition, recognizing that the rules changed. That inflation didn't just raise prices. It exposed every financial identity built on income instead of margin. That the old strategy of earning your way to freedom has a ceiling now, and most people hit it 3 years ago without knowing. The people who will thrive in this economy, and I don't mean survive, I mean move through it with calm and clarity and options, they're not the ones with the highest income. They're the ones with the lowest floor. The ones who need the least to feel intact. The ones whose identity isn't welded to their expenditure. You've been doing everything right. The spreadsheet is clean, the contributions are automated, the salary is respectable. And you're standing in a grocery store staring at a receipt that costs more than it should, feeling something you can't quite name. Now you can name it. It's the feeling of a strategy that expired. Not because you failed, but because the world shifted underneath it while you were following the plan. The plan was never wrong. It was just built for still water. And the water isn't still anymore. The question was never how much do you make. The only question that matters now, is how many bad options can you survive without fear? Count them. If the number is low, no raise will fix that. Only the gap will. Only the distance. Only the quiet, invisible, boring decision to let your floor stay exactly where it is while the world tries to push it higher. That's the new strategy. Not earning more, not investing differently. Just refusing, calmly, deliberately, without announcement, to need more than you needed yesterday. The inflation already happened. The prices aren't coming back. But your freedom was never about prices. It was about the space between what you earn and what you require. Protect that space. It's the only thing that's actually yours.